right, I don't have any idea how to start a podcast, so I'm going to channel my inner Andre here. Hello, party people! It's your boy Kevin here, coming at you hot and fast and hard with another installment of Fine Time. How did that? Did that make sense? Does that sound like Andre?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was here? Okay, perfect.
It was perfect.
All right, everybody knows that we're podcasting, at least, I think.
Yeah.
So I think on the regular show, Fine Time, I think we've got a pretty good coverage of old and new console stuff. Just a fairly good, well-rounded knowledge between the three of us. That being said, PC gaming is a little bit underrepresented, so we called in the heavies, if you will. I brought in a subject matter expert, my good friend Stockton, known as @Bimmy Sucks on Twitter. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Well, the kind of the interesting thing about me and Stockton, not only are we, I guess, related at this point because our wives are cousins with each other, but we also went to school the entire time from kindergarten up until grade 12. So I think a lot of both our age relating to what was going on with PC gaming and just technology at the time, as well as what we were, playing in school, which will be a big part of this, lines up. So I think that'll work out pretty well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think we can probably kick it off right there at kindergarten. When going into kindergarten, I certainly didn't have a computer, and this would have been 94, 95.
Yeah.
Did you have a home computer at that time?
We did. We had like a really, really old Mac, I think.
Oh, okay. Did you use it much,
box.
Or was it more like Dad's work computer?
No, Dad didn't. He didn't know anything about computers.
Oh.
His older brother's like, I don't know what computer. Music listening, a lot of, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how.
Did you get much time on it at the time, or?
Yeah. There was like everything was like floppy disks. My brother had this one game, and it was like all these druids on the front cover.
Okay.
And I remember it'd be pretty scary, like for a little kid.
Right. But more the cover than the in-game graphics.
Exactly, yeah. Just like the idea of the scariness of it.
Right.
And I was watching like X-Files and scaring the bejesus out of me.
So what did you like? Were you pretty interested in the computer at that time, or was it just kind of a side thought to Nintendo or console gaming?
Yeah, we had an NES at that point, so that was mostly just playing Mario, I guess. I didn't really play many video games at that point. Right.
Yeah. So what do you, I'm curious what you remember about going into kindergarten. The only program I remember using specifically in kindergarten was this storytelling program, and I have no idea what it was called. You would tell the teacher a short story, and they would type it out. It would show up on the side of the screen, and then you could design a character that would go along with the story, and basically pick between like big eyes or squinty eyes or spiky hair or long hair or whatever, and then tell a story about the character.
I don't remember that at all, and I do remember like quite a bit of like the recesses and stuff,
right?
Like snowball fights and like that sand table we had. It was like an indoor sandbox.
Yeah, I remember the sand table.
I think there was even like a cardboard castle or some crap in the corner.
Yeah, well, I think that was like the dress up area.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
I think so. Oh man, that's so long ago.
Do you remember using the computer in kindergarten at all, or is that just too
Honestly,
far back?
Yeah, I didn't think we had a computer in kindergarten, like at all. I didn't even remember the teacher having one, really.
Yeah, no, there definitely was there was a computer, like I don't know if it was like one or two computers that was kind of like the computer center that you would get to do once a week or whatever.
Oh my God, knowing my 5-year-olds, like those computers must have just been trashed. Like crayons all over them.
Boogers under the F key.
Yeah. Were they Max? Do you remember?
I'm pretty sure they were Max. I'm almost positive, but yeah, going back that far, and maybe that's just an assumption because I know going into elementary school, for years and years and years, all we had were Macs. There were no PCs, period. So I feel like that was just kind of an education standard at the time was using Macs. I know in kind of grade 1, grade 2, I specifically remember using the old Mac Classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those were just with like the black and white graphics, right?
No, though I'm pretty
Were
sure
they color?
those had like the 16 colors or whatever. It was pretty basic. I remember playing Hangman on those. I remember like a unlicensed rip-off Wheel of Fortune. Is any of that ringing a bell?
I do kind of foggy remember the Wheel of Fortune, but
Right.
like it's so far back.
Now, maybe another year or two later, I don't remember when we started using the computers in the computer lab, but I feel like that's when things started getting a little bit better. I remember Math Blaster Plus. That was definitely like a full color program.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you what else do you remember from that era playing?
I remember we had this really grumpy old like computer teacher. And if we would like use the dynamite to erase something in like the Mac equivalent of paint, she thought that was too violent.
Picks.
Yeah, Kid Picks, is that what it was? Oh
yeah,
no, that's a terrible name. No. Come on.
Yeah, if you wanted to, I remember that too. If you wanted to wipe everything, you use the stick of dynamite, and it's just got like a circle animation that spreads out.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And I'm sure to some degree though, because kids just thought the animation was cool, and it made the sound or whatever. So she was probably had PTSD from years of hearing kids set off the dynamite on the computer.
Maybe she was an epileptic and didn't have the heart to tell us. Because that was a pretty aggressive animation, honestly.
Well, what else was on Kid Picks? I remember.
Oh, that name! It's terrible. If you're gonna like Epstein me on this first like guest,
well, no, it's like PI.
I'm not getting on your private
end, so
jet, Kevin.
It makes it innocent, right?
Yeah, sure. We'll talk about the Iditarod situation later.
I remember there was the tree animation when you would hold down the tree, and the longer you did it, it would like make the tree bigger and bigger. But if you held it for too long, it would just turn into this like giant veiny blob.
Yes, that was like pretty trippy, honestly.
Yeah. And there was an animation where like I don't remember what the tool was, but every time you would use it, the guy would go, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe I'm getting that conflated with something else. I'm pretty sure that was on
what is that?
Classic Kid Picks.
Oh, my God. There was like a Star Wars, like Star Wipe one that was acceptable.
A Star
Wars. Like where it'd start in the middle
wipe.
and do like a clock wipe, like a clockwise like erase of the screen. And then I think there's ones where like lines come from either side and like crisscross sort of deal, and it erases everything.
Oh, so the dynamite wasn't the only mass erase tool.
No, there's like all sorts of crazy stuff happening in 1995. I was sure that program was black and white.
Oh, no.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like Kid Picks was in full color, and I think there was probably like a number of versions of it. So now moving forward, I guess what year do you think it would have been when we started getting into like cross country Canada and kind of some of these a little bit more graphically intensive, if you will, games?
I want to say that was like 97, 98 sort of
territory. Yeah. I think you're probably about right. Cross country Canada in that time was probably the biggest one for me. And so actually, just as an interesting sidebar, I've went down the rabbit hole a number of times. The version of Cross Country Canada that we specifically played, you cannot find it online. So there was a really old version of Cross Country Canada. And I think there was kind of like a second edition of that one, and then there was Cross Country Canada 2, but none of them match up exactly with the version we had, because I remember exactly how the dash of the truck looked, and the glove box with the maps and books in it or whatever.
Oh
You
yeah.
can find a version of Cross Country USA that looks the exact same, but it's not Cross Country Canada. And so I've went down this far enough. I found a Reddit post from some guy a couple years ago that was looking for the exact same thing I was, and he figured that it was like a education, like school distribution specific
Right.
version that was sent out to schools, but that's never been archived anywhere. Like you
Oh
cannot
man.
find footage of it anywhere. You can only find the USA version of the
Of
what.
course.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you want to give everybody, for anybody not familiar, a quick rundown of Cross Country Canada and what's going on there?
So from what I foggily remember, it was like basically like the old school version of like American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator, if anyone knows what I'm talking about there. Then you'd like basically start in a Canadian city, you'd load a commodity, and then I think you would just like click for like the gas pedal and stuff, wouldn't you?
Yep. Well, and I think
Yeah.
because you would go on the map and you would set your destination via the map, right?
Yeah. It was more of like, it was pretty on rails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think every once in a while you'd have a decision like to pick up a hitchhiker, and then they'd be like, a hitchhiker stole all your potatoes. It's like,
Right.
man, I got a 40-foot trailer on. Like, he took all them fucking potatoes? Like, are you serious?
He took your 6 tons of ore and threw it in his backpack and rolled out.
Fucking Peckerwood. But that's kind of all I really remember. I thought it was super fun at the time. Like, I was super into it.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites at that time too. I think the goal of that one was kind of specifically like geography, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And then kind of like almost like resource management as well, and making sure that you're selecting the city where you're selling the potatoes or whatever, where you're going to make a profit. Because I think you made those decisions where you were going to like kind of buy low, sell high.
Yeah, if you're going to sell potatoes in New Brunswick, you're a moron, sort of thing.
Now, so am I right thinking that, or was it
I
a
think
little
so.
bit
I think
more
there was like
on rails than
Alberta
that?
was like beef or oil or some crap, and then BC's probably like pot and like heroin, and then Saskatchewan is just like a tumbleweed, just bashing everybody. And then, like, I think it was like New Brunswick was potatoes, or like kind of like what you're known for. Like Newfoundland would be like kind of fish or crab or something. I don't know.
Right.
Lobster.
Yeah. And I think it was probably right around this era that we were doing Yukon Trail as well, which is, for anybody not aware, the Canadian version of Oregon Trail.
And it's much better. It has much better graphics, and it's cooler.
I think there, like around that era, there definitely was a Oregon Trail that was probably graphically similar to that.
Yeah, but I mean, well, come on, it's Yukon Trail. I don't know. I thought it was cool because you could take a ferry like up the BC coast and then go into like the Yukon and stuff. It was really neat.
Yeah, I remember specifically like you would get to like a diner or somewhere, maybe just the outside of a building, and there's like ladies with the bonnet and the old timey dresses.
Yeah, and then there'd be like some dude in like the denim kind of like overall things with like a friggin' piece of wheat sticking out of his mouth.
Right.
And be like, what do you guys need? And you could buy like a dog sled or like stuff kind of like that, snowshoes.
Just happen to be going
Since
through
you're in
town looking
BC,
for a
you could
dog
buy
sled.
some like weed and heroin.
What other school games do you remember playing around that time?
The Da Vinci, there was like a Da Vinci point and click, like Myst like game.
Yes.
And it would show like his original prototype for like the weird helicopter thing. And like, I think it was like, I don't know what the point of the game was, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because that one I remember much more vaguely, and I don't know, like, it almost doesn't seem like that one was as education focused.
It seems like that was more for like a grade 7 kid. or something. Like, it was pretty, I think it was a bit mature for like our ages at the time.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was playing like Nikolai's Trains, which has like terrifying animation. Like, you should see the freaking stills of that. It'll give you nightmares.
I know, but I feel like you bring up Nikolai's Trains probably twice a year for the last 10 years, so I know it holds a special place in your heart.
I played the shit out of Nikolai's Trains.
Nikolai's Trains, I very vaguely remember. So what's the summary of that one?
Honestly, dude, I have no idea.
Just Nikolai and Trains.
I think it was kind of like a choose your own adventure thing, or I think there might have been some math involved. I friggin' don't. I have no idea. All I remember is the drawings, like, they're like so weird.
I hope nobody's listening to this for educational value. If somebody's researching Nikolai's Trains and they found
oh, come on,
we pointed him to this podcast, maybe it had math or some shit. It's not going to be very useful to the gaming historian.
Well, what do you want me clickety clack at my keyboard? So I watched videos too to brush up on lots of this stuff. I forgot everything.
Oh, it was quite a long time ago at this point, so that's fair.
I must have made a recent trip to British Columbia.
Do you have any other things around that area you want to talk about?
I mean, there was like the first time we played Doom.
So this was well out of school for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So was that
because
it
was in school?
For me, Doom was like revolutionary when I played it. Tell me about when you first played Doom.
I actually played Doom like somewhat later. Like, it was when CD-ROMs were a thing and stuff. Like, I never did play the floppy version. And there was like a version of Doom that was on like a multi-game like CD, and it had like this other like Trackmania style game. I think it was called like Stunts. It was like super DOS. I think it was like a DOS game.
So this is more, it's kind of like a DOS shareware compilation type thing?
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember what else was on it. But that was the first time I ever played it. And I remember thinking it was like weird how like the mouse, like the way you move the mouse, like it was like, yeah, it was like, best way I could relate it is like the first time you ever played Halo or like a twin stick shooter on a console. You're just like, whoa, these controls are like crazy. Like, how is this even usable until you get used to it?
And so you had never played like, Wolfenstein 3D or anything before that either, hey?
No. I think that same multi-game thing had Wolfenstein on it though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I played Doom really well as well. And so this was at my cousin's house, and it was at a holiday family gathering. And because I was always really interested in the computer, they had a Windows 95 PC. So I was always bugging to use the computer. So even while everybody's over for the family gathering, I convinced my aunt to come, take me into the computer room and set me up to fuck around on the computer for a little bit. And she let me play Doom. I was probably maybe like 6 or 7 at this time. And this is the first time I remember playing really anything that would be described as 3D graphics. And I was completely blown away by it. I remember that super well. And I remember my dad coming in he's kind of like, oh, what are you doing? Everybody's out visiting. And then he starts watching and he's like, ooh, I don't know if you should be playing this. And I remember being like, Dad, fucking look at this game. Like, this is insane. There's nothing like this on the Super Nintendo. You gotta let me play this fucking game. And I think he like realized that it was pretty impactful to me. So he's just like, yeah, all right, whatever. So that was my first time playing Doom.
He probably was like, hey, it's not Final Fantasy in French. I can't play it.
that was Link to the Past we had in French.
Oh, I thought it was Final Fantasy, the first one. Final Fantasy, he made you buy all like 99 potions for him, and then he'd take the controller back, right?
Yeah, so we were allowed to play all of the NES games except for Final Fantasy. That was Dad's game, so when he was done with it, it would go back with the map and the instruction manual in the box up in the cupboard above the stove, so nobody was allowed to play it but him. But then he would kind of, woo me and be like, oh, do you want to try it for a little bit? Because on that game, you need to buy cures or any item one at a time. You can't say buy
Oh my
50
God.
cures. So you got to sit there and mash the button, for probably 10 seconds to buy one cure. And he wants to load up on 30 cures before going into the Marsh Cave or whatever. So that was my job. But then once he had enough cures, fuck off, Kevin. I'm playing again.
That's like abuse.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty
crazy.
rude, I think.
NES RPGs are so clunky, like Dragon Quest. You have to like go up the stairs with a menu and stuff. Like it's such a pain in the ass. There's
Yeah,
so
I
much
think
grindage.
I think Dragon Quest probably takes the cake for clunky over Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I think back to the school edutainment stuff. The next big revelation that I remember was getting the iMac G3s showing up in the computer lab, and that was the best thing ever when those showed up. Not only did they look cool as fuck with all the different translucent colors, but they were a significant tech upgrade from what we had at the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I remember just looking at that screen and it looked like the first time you ever saw like a plasma television or like 1080p. Right. You're just like, holy shit.
Even just the way that the UI was set up. So now what?
Oh, like what version?
Was that like OS 9?
I want to say OS 7
on the G3s.
I don't know, dude. I'm not a Mac guy. What the fuck are you talking about?
I remember Nanosaur very well. That was the highlight of the Mac G3s.
It was released in 1999. OS 9 was.
Okay, so we would have been right around that time when we got the G3s, I think.
Yeah. I think you're probably 2000. Right. Yeah, just looking at screenshots and stuff, I think you're definitely right. Yeah.
So, yeah, Nanosaur was the thing at the time.
Oh, and Bugdom.
Well, so because Bugdom was only on, we had 5 newer G3s, and I think they were, the only thing I remember was different was the disk drive. The original G3s had the like pop out tray, but then the 5 newer G3s on the side of the computer lab had just the like insertion slot for the disk drive, and those were the only ones that had Bugdom.
I believe all 3 were like the dark, like smoke gray versions as well.
I'm sure there was 5 of them, but you might be right about the color.
Oh, okay.
But it was always like a mad rush because everybody loved Nanosaur, but because Bugdom was only on those 5 computers, there was always a rush to get on those computers so that on free time you could play Bugdom a little bit.
I literally think I played Bugdom twice because the competition was so fierce to get over there that like halfway through the school year, I was just like, fuck Bugdom. I'm just devoting my young life to Nanosaur.
You know what? Nanosaur was better anyways, though.
I can't even remember Bugdom. I think Nanosaur was deadly.
Yeah. So do you want to give us a quick rundown of Nanosaur?
So Nanosaur was a... I guess just like kind of collecting egg game, but you were like a sci-fi like dinosaur with like laser guns and sort of stuff like that. And then as soon as you spawned in, like every dinosaur for like 2 miles around would just start gangbanging you. And you have to like try and run around and get all these eggs. And it was developed by Pangea Soft, same as Bugdom, same developer. And the graphics and stuff, like, yeah, the draw distance was a bit rough, but like, they held up pretty decent for what the game was.
For sure.
I think it's honestly impressive for the year.
That was like actual 3D. Yeah, and you had the jetpack and like rocket launchers and all that shit.
Yeah, and you could pick up power-ups.
And if I remember right, because you could, like, once you learned that game, like, there wasn't that much to it. If you knew what you were doing, like, you could run through that game in, I think 20, 25 minutes. And I never finished it, but I feel like there were kids that, were able to play through the entirety of Nanosaur, like, within one computer class period if it was kind of a fuck around day.
Yeah, and depending... Like when we had a computer lab, I think some kids went in there at lunch and then were like playing it until like computer lab class started.
Right.
And they'd pick a computer that's like kind of facing away from the whiteboard so the teacher didn't like couldn't as easily see and stuff.
My probably my strongest memory of that computer lab. So whenever we did typing class, we had these. So I guess those were they were just the cardboard covers in elementary school, right? So when you're doing typing, you can't look at your hands.
Yeah.
But when we got into junior high, the fucking computer class teacher would walk around with a yardstick, and all of those covers were like one class years ago had made them in shop class, so they're made of like fucking plywood, and they were heavy. And if you were slouching or peeking under, looking at your hands or whatever when you're typing, he would come around and he would fucking cork that thing with the yardstick, and it would scare you, so you'd rip your hands up. And I remember having like fucked up knuckles from banging them on those keyboard covers.
The one of the years before we went to school, I think they gave the disabled kid like the strap.
Jesus, really?
I think like 5 years before we went to school, and then they like outlawed like giving kids like the slap on the hand with like the leather strap. Like we were on the like very edge of like you weren't allowed to like write with your left hand and crap like that.
Right.
Like they didn't let my brother write with his left hand. So he's still right-handed, but his like writing's all screwed up because he was like left-handed.
Well, even like there was definitely kids getting the strap in elementary school, and I remember the principal coming in like in grade 1 and you know like showing everybody the strap and being like, you know, don't fuck around.
Yeah, like it was. So like with the yardstick thing, like yeah, he wouldn't care if he caught your wrist or the back of your hand. Like,
right.
Getting hit in the small bones of your hand with a yardstick, like that actually really fucking hurts.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd tell him to get effed every computer class, and he'd be like, go out in the fucking hallway, and I'd say, fuck you, I'm looking at the keys. Like, I don't care. I still look at the keys. I type faster than like anyone at my work. Like, screw off. Anywho, enough of the child abuse.
Well, I know. So I also kind of wanted to just talk about like internet usage at this period. And I think this is getting a little bit more into grade 5 and grade 6, teaching us about, you know, just kind of like research techniques or whatever. But that being said, at the time, Google wasn't even a thing. We were using askjeeves.com.
Absolutely.
And I explicitly remember the kind of the biggest like online research project was the Iditarod, which is a dog sled race, like that's held, I don't know, every year in Alaska or something. I don't remember exactly what the deal is.
Alaska, but I think it's like 1,000 fucking miles, dude.
Right.
I think it's like literally like suicidal if you want to do that shit.
I know that you explicitly wanted to bring this up because of the
we had a outdoor activity day because this teacher is super into like the outdoors and the Iditarod. So she like, we had the first annual, I think, I Did a Kid. Perfect naming. We went outside and some kid like sat on a sled and had like 6 other people and he had to yell mush. If he yelled go, the teacher would be like, no, dog sledders say mush. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. Please don't like I Did a Kid me. And then I don't even remember like much of the details. We watched the movie Iron Will, I think came out around that time, and that was all about like dog sledding.
Oh boy, I don't remember that at all.
Oh, okay. It was pretty cheesy, terrible movie.
Now, so back to Ask Jeeves. I don't now. Do you remember exactly how that search engine even worked at the time? Because I don't think you like the way you would treat it was that you would like
ask
it was meant,
a query.
Yeah, and that's how it was meant to be used, and then it would bring up like different websites relating to that query. Now, what was the reason for that? Why couldn't you just use keywords?
I think because like the keyword system hadn't even like been invented really yet. Like I think the guys at Google like invented the way to just like type shit in and stuff come up.
Oh, that can't be true.
I think it's true.
Because I always wondered if the teacher just didn't really know how to do it, and they were just like, "Well, it's Ask Jeeves, so you got to ask it a question." That's what I think happened.
I remember one time, like, people putting in strippers.com and stuff, and there'd be boobies.
I remember. I feel like we were probably in grade 4 whenever everybody started getting Hotmail accounts and everybody had email, and that was the new thing. One of the kids typed in on the school computer Hotmail as HOTMALE.com.
Oh,
I'll tell you who that was when we're not recording.
I think I have some guesses.
So, do you think that kind of brings us to the end of our edutainment journey?
I remember playing Ski Free. Do you remember Ski Free?
No, I don't remember Ski Free at all.
So that was Windows, and I think we had some Windows computers around the school. They just weren't, like, I think most of them were Mac, but I do believe, like, in the computer lab that, like, in the corner there's like a few Windows machines. And they had, like, Minesweeper and Ski Free. And Ski Free, like, you had to, like, ski down over moguls and stuff. And I think, like, you had to be fast enough so, like, an abominable snowman would spawn and he'd chase you down the hill. And, like, he was, like, impossible to escape. Like, I don't actually know if he was possible to escape, but most kids, like, claim they had got away from him and all that sort of crap.
So what era was this?
Ski Free would be like, I bet, like, that might have been on the kindergarten computers, dude. That would be Ski Free. I bet Ski Free came out in, like, I think I put it here, 1991.
Oh, okay. So this is quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was like early elementary school. And then also, like, with internet usage on the iMacs, do you remember just going to, like, HotWheels.com? Or, like, different websites would have their own kind of, like, mini Flash games and stuff.
I remember, as far as websites around that time, I remember, so this would have been in, I think, 99, when Pokemon Yellow was coming up, and they were really building that up. I remember going on the Pokemon website and thinking that was really well done. I also remember, so we went to Disneyland, and I think I was in grade 5 when we went to Disneyland, and I know before we did that, so it was my parents, like, tasked me with using the internet at school and going and getting, like, maps of Disneyland and the California Adventures or whatever, and so we could kind of, like, plan our routes out. And I remember the Disneyland website being fucking cool in the late 90s, as you would expect.
Oh yeah, I guess, but who would think to go to Disney.com?
Right.
Your parents are smart wanting to print out maps, dude. Fuck. Like, that was, like, was 99, like, before MapQuest and shit for, like, driving?
See, I never used MapQuest. I don't even really, like, I know I've heard of it, and it was kind of the precursor to Google Maps, but I'd never, like, actually used it at the time or knew of it being used.
I remember seeing a few MapQuests around then. But, like, I never, like, looked it up myself.
So it was just more for, like, route planning or whatever.
Yeah, it was like Google Maps, except, like, you had to print out your route. Like, right. You might as well just went and bought a fucking map.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I don't. Is that we're kind of wrapping up the edutainment series here?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, why don't we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll start digging into kind of later home computing.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about video games instead.
Yeah, video games.
And we are back, moving on from our journeys through edutainment, we're going to start getting kind of into more home computing stuff. So you had mentioned that you had used your brother's computer, but tell me, so what did you guys kind of have after that? Did you have your own computer, or was it more of a family computer that you started digging into when you were getting a little older?
So we had like a really early Mac. I believe it was like one of the ones with the black and white screens. And then we moved to like a Windows 95 computer. And that's when I used to like listen to like Queen CDs on it all the time.
Okay.
Like for hours at a time as a kid, just because I love like the guitar solos and shit. And then after that, we got like a Dell, like just like regular ass workstation. The keyboard had like, I remember it had like this weird like blue rubbery like fucking thing. I think you could like use it as like a little joystick, like weird fucking thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what about the Windows 95 unit? Did you do much gaming on that one, or was that just more of kind of the CD player and kind of
Yeah, that
family
was just like
computer?
my brother's computer. I only ever listened to Queen on it, really.
Right. Okay. So what year did you guys get the Dell around?
I would say so. I remember definitely playing like the NHL 2000 game, like right when it first came out.
Yeah.
And they usually release like the year previous. So I want to say like 98, 99.
Okay, perfect. So we're like, I guess as far as getting into kind of computer games at home, we're probably going to line up pretty close together
I
here
think
as
so.
well, because so it would have been right in the year 2000 that we got our first family computer that was a compact Presario 5000, which eventually met its demise when my dad ruined it with porn viruses. But before that happened, we had a pretty good time with it until like every time, like before it would even boot to Windows, there was just like flashing titties everywhere.
Me and your dad were both downloading porn around the same time. Not 2000, but like, I don't know, starting in like 2004 or 5, sort of. Fucking Morpheus and Kazaa looking for videos.
Your Dell would have been Windows 98, I assume, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we got the compact, it actually came out right in that short period of time where new computers were shipping with ME. So I got to, yeah, we got to have Clippy guide us through setting up the new computer and everything.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was a real good time for me, because at the time, all we had for home consoles was still NES and Super Nintendo. N64 had been out for a long time, and I had been begging for one for years and years and years. But my parents eventually wound up telling me the reason we never got one is because they were concerned that I played too many video games. So when we got the Presario, this was the first machine that I actually had in my house that was capable of playing 3D games. So that definitely for a couple years there, I guess once the GameCube came out, because I got one of those shortly after launch. So then I kind of got back to console a little bit more, but definitely for a while there, everything was, any modern games were being played on the computer.
So your like total love for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is just because of the PC version of the game?
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was the only, like, other than being at friends' houses, I didn't have any version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater at home other than the PC.
I think I remember this. I think I remember one lunch when we were both in school. I don't know, what year would this be, like grade 5?
Yeah, yep.
So I remember talking to you about like Tony Hawk, because I had Tony Hawk 1 on N64, and you're like, well, I got Tony Hawk 2. And I was like, oh, yeah? Well, I got a demo of Tony Hawk 2 on like a fucking cereal box or some shit. I was like, I don't think it controls that good on a computer. And you were like, I think it controls just fine.
In hindsight, for a game like that, like, what a shitty way to play it with a fucking keyboard.
I mean, what the fuck? You play it how you can play it.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely soaked a lot out of it on the computer. I also had Dave Mira BMX. I don't know if you remember that. And that one I actually got from the Scholastic Flyer. I don't know if this is an American thing or if this is just Canadians. But if anybody's not familiar with this, you get the flyer that you can order books from that come to the school, and they would once in a while have computer software in there. So how I convinced my mom to let me order a video game out of the book ordering place, I have no idea how that happened, but
Correct me if I'm wrong, American people, but I do think that Scholastic book fairs are a thing there as well.
is it?
I think so.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
remember I got Simcopter at the Scholastic Book Fair and an
Oh,
Adam
okay.
Sandler autobiography.
I
That was
got that.
totally not written by fucking Adam
Yes,
Sandler.
I got that same Adam Sandler autobiography
Not too shabby.
or biography. Yes, yeah, it's probably like what 80 pages, the like small paperback one.
Yeah, and he said he always wore hockey jerseys and hiking boots, and so did I at the time. I was like, fuck yeah, me and Adam Sandler are bros. You gotta remember, people, this is back when Adam Sandler like wasn't a sack of shit. So it was
Yeah.
kind of sweet.
So Simcopter, what year would that have been around when you ordered it?
I think around this time.
I never
Kind
played Simcopter. What's the?
So you would take your SimCity 2000 city, right?
Yeah, okay.
And it would somehow like side load it into Simcopter, so you could like fly a helicopter around your own city. And it was
Oh,
super
cool.
shitty, kind of like fucking graphics. And you'd see a traffic jam and you'd like point your spotlight at it and hit like the move along button, and then like the traffic would start moving, or
Oh,
there'd be a
interesting.
fire. So you'd have to like point a fire hose at like the size of like a skyscraper, or there'd be like ambulance, like medevac missions. So you'd have to like fly people to like the helipad on like the roof of a hospital. It was fucking awesome.
Cool. So this isn't really that much of a sim game. It's just got the sim moniker because you use SimCity 2000 to dump in your map.
Yeah, it was made by Maxis and stuff, but it was like it was
This
definitely
wasn't like
a
flight
spin-off.
simulator for a helicopter or anything.
No, it was pretty arcadey, but it was like cool. Like it felt simmy for the time, you know, like you're a little kid.
Yeah.
So you're like, shit, I can like make my own city and fly around the friggin' thing. That's awesome.
Now, did it only work with 2000, or was this also compatible with 3000?
I want to say 2000
Just
because they made
2000.
like a racing game as well that you could drive around your city. But I think that game was quite a bit shittier.
Cool. So I want to talk about Blizzard a little bit. Were you playing Blizzard games around this time too?
A bit earlier, my cousin had StarCraft 2 and I played that, Warcraft 2, and I played that quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
But not Diablo 2 until probably like 2000. I don't know. When did that even come out? Like probably 2003, I would have maybe played it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to say that came out maybe right around 2000, maybe 2001-ish.
Oh, okay.
I know we got it when it was fairly recent, at least. And yeah, I don't know, when I think about the golden era of PC gaming, to me is definitely kind of when Blizzard was hot and heavy with Warcraft 3, Diablo 2. That's what really embodies PC gaming to me. Well, and a lot of what like really I find interesting about that is those games, and they definitely have figured out how to kind of transpose those games to console with controls that do work. But at the time, those games had to be played on PC, not because of a power standpoint, but just because of a control standpoint.
Yeah, same reason point and clicks are miserable on consoles.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I did a lot of Sims game. SimCity 3000 was I never had 2000, but a lot of 3000. The Sims, and then like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Zoo Tycoon and shit like that. So I definitely, yeah, I got pretty into sim gaming, and that was just never a thing, obviously on Super Nintendo, really, other than if you had SimCity or SimCity 2000 on SNES.
Right. I never played Zoo Tycoon, but my aunt and uncle had Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I went over and stayed over at their house one time, and literally for like 16 hours one day, I did not get off their fucking PC. They were like, "You want lunch?" I'm like, "Nope." "You want to come play with your cousins?" "Nope." Like they thought I was like literally they were like, wow, this kid has like high powered autism. Like he will not get off this PC. But I thought it was the funnest thing in the world. And as soon as I got home, I begged my mom for like a month for Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then we finally got it.
Ah, good.
And then I sat there for like 16 hours. Yeah. Oh God,
Did you
yeah.
do a lot of like the only thing I had a hard time with on Roller Coaster Tycoon, I felt it was a little bit janky as far as the actual coaster track design.
Oh yeah, it was miserable.
Did you get into that
Um,
much?
I tried to, and like I do ones that just launch people and stuff as like a laugh.
Right, but not
But
any
I
like
think I
actual.
usually just use like the pre-made ones, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's what I did too, which is kind of a shame because that would have been a really fun thing to get into. I just never like felt like it worked that well, or maybe I was just too fucking dumb to understand how it worked.
Yeah, it was pretty janky. I remember it being pretty janky.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was licensed soundtracks because I feel like and this was obviously a console thing as well, but especially around this era, this is when they had the best music on game soundtracks. Back to Tony Hawk and
Yeah.
Dave Mirra, and then like racing games, I had Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit, and Test Drive 6. A lot of the music that I would wind up, really getting into as I kind of moved towards high school, I found on these games. So it was fairly, playing these games in itself was pretty impactful on what kind of music I'd be listening to for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah, I mean Tony Hawk 2 had like Blood Brothers and stuff. Like I know we're not listening to like Papa Roach that much anymore, but it was a pretty
Yeah,
good
right.
gateway to like the
Yeah,
music we like now.
yeah, for sure.
Like I still listen to a lot of CKY and like
Well,
stuff
now,
like that.
so Helmet Unsung, was that on
I believe so.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2? I
Yeah.
think 96 Quite Bitter Beans by CKY, that was Tony Hawk 3.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there was some awesome music
And
around
then
that
like Dave
time.
Mirra BMX2 had like Doing Time by Sublime and stuff. Like it's pretty good mix of pop punk and stuff around that time and
Right.
ska music.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you bring up Need for Speed 3?
Yeah, Hot Pursuit.
Yeah.
I played the shit out of that on PC.
So Need for Speed 2, Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit, and then also High Stakes are like three perfect games in my
Mm,
opinion. They're so fucking fun. And like me and my cousin would spend hours playing them. Hours. Just because the police chases and stuff were so fun. And we like wanted like a Corvette in real life and stuff. Like we were
right.
super into cars back then.
So
So to
so
be able
for
to play like a 3D game where you're like running from the cops and smashing into shit was like fantastic. Same with like the Midtown Madness series kind of back then.
right. Yeah, I don't know, it's funny. I didn't know you were that into like racing games on PC back then cuz that never really died out. That's still a big thing for you.
Oh god, yeah. Like I just literally, well, I guess it's not PC, but I literally just turned off Forza 6 right before this podcast. Love the old racing games.
Did you ever play any of the cereal box software that came out around that time?
So there was like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and like I
Yep.
think that also had like Jeopardy and some other stuff on it. I played that. I really wish I'd play Chex Quest because that looks fucking awesome.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's like Chex themed Doom.
Oh,
And
really?
it has like really high like reviews and stuff. Like apparently it's like a sick fucking computer game.
Oh, interesting. So you like
Yeah.
play as pieces of checks or what?
Yeah, I think you like shoot like this laser gun and it turns like things like enemies into like checks or something. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
cool.
just like a Doom like reskin basically.
Right. I'm gonna have to check that out after.
Yeah, it looks awesome. But like the major one was the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire because that show was
Right.
like huge back then.
Well, and there was like pretty good games that were coming out of cereal boxes at that time. Like really, I remember. I think for one of the cereal brands had a thing with Disney, so I remember playing. There was like a Timon and Pumbaa game. There was an Atlantis game, and these were
Mm.
like pretty full featured games.
Oh,
It
that's
wasn't.
cool.
Yeah. I don't know. That's definitely a thing of the past. I haven't got any video games that I've played in out of cereal boxes for a few years at least.
It sucks that our kids will miss out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll be podcasting, in 30 years talking about how they lived in the good old days where their, favorite creators were telling them to like and subscribe.
Oh, oh. Hit the
What
fucking bell.
So what about internet? Did you guys have internet at home around that time too?
We were very late on internet.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't
when did
think
you?
we got it till like 2002 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so like no internet. Just I remember we had this one game and it looked like a cereal. I thought it was a cereal when I was a kid. My mom like came in and she was all like pumped, like because like she knew like I love getting games, right? She
Yeah.
was like, check this out, it's so awesome. And I was like, oh my god. I'm like, oh, it's cereal, like I guess that's kind of cool or whatever. So I like went and put it in the pantry and didn't realize it was like a big box PC game. And then
No.
yeah. And then I was like fucking month and a half later, I was like, I guess I'll try out this stupid, like it looks gross as cereal. So I pull it out and it's this game called Stay Tuned. And it was like a total like point and click adventure, but it was like super like trying to be humorous. Like you turn on the TV and instead of friends, it would say like frauds and stuff, like just kind of like weird jokes and shit. But I was like super obsessed with that game. I thought it was awesome. And then I forgot what the hell it was called for like 15 years until I finally seen the cover art again. I was like, holy shit, I remember that. I thought that game was cereal for like 2 months.
Your mom never went into the pantry and was like, "Why the fuck is this computer game sitting next to the?"
She just thought I was like, she's just letting me do my thing. I think I was like busy watching Flipper at the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the dial up obviously. Like real soon after we got the home computer, and a big thing I remember spending a ton of time doing was going on. At first, it was on the like Legend of Zelda website forums, and that was really interesting for me because I obviously you talk about video games with kids at school and everything, but this was like a whole nother level of like just getting to kind of see that community and what they were saying about games and really digging into that stuff. So I spent tons of times on those forums. I remember they did the Camp Hyrule thing in the summer, and then eventually the Legend of Zelda forums got wrapped into just the Nintendo.com forums, and for years I spent quite a bit of time doing that.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. Because like you say, usually people would like talk about games at school, like, oh yeah, in Max Payne, if you do this one thing, there's like a secret or whatever. But on a forum, there's like you like find every secret and everything.
Well,
and
even
it wouldn't just be like word of mouth. It kind of still would be, but
right. Well, and even outside of that, so at the time I was still like really only playing Nintendo systems. The first system I had that wasn't a Nintendo system was a PS2. And I didn't get that till probably like 2004, maybe 2005. So I had subscriptions to EGM and stuff at the time, so it wasn't like I was completely oblivious. But there was definitely, these forums were not like just on topic for Nintendo games. So there was, I kind of wound up getting a lot of the culture that I had missed out of earlier.
Oh, cool! It's kind of like me with the Ultimate Guitar forums.
Yeah, right. So what like when did was that more college that you started getting into that, or was that in high school?
Like the forums and that?
Yeah.
So yeah, in high school, like 2004, I opened up my Ultimate Guitar account. And that was like the first kind of forums I'd ever been a part of. And then in college, I remember there was like Bungie.net. And it showed like your heat maps and like all your stats for Halo 3 and stuff.
Yep.
I remember being on there quite a bit. And then like OneUp.com forums as well.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I really miss that, like that time back when forums were a fairly big thing. Like obviously Reddit is a thing now, and there's kind of different smaller community groups. But now it just
The
seems like
Ultimate
it's more
Guitar
like,
Forum still going strong, Kevin.
yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't know. It seems like for the most part that's kind of been taken over by Twitter and Discord and just a completely different way of fandoms communicating with each other. But I think there was a lot of like, people in the forums would it seemed like people would be a lot more willing to like flesh out big ideas, and probably were a lot less like antagonistic with each other as well.
Yeah, early internet, people didn't like shit on each other near as hard, and when they did,
Yeah,
they'd be like, "Okay, sorry to flame, but fucking eat a
right.
dick, fuck stick."
Well, I don't know. I feel like at that time, because everybody was kind of there for like maybe more of the same reason, like maybe those communities were more curated. There was more of a sense of community.
And the internet was like kind of like still, even in those days, it was still new enough that we were all just kind of happy to be here. It wasn't
Right.
taken as much for granted.
Well, and they're probably, I think at that time too, that a lot of the people that were on there were more enthusiasts. Now everybody's on the internet, and obviously not everybody's like talking about video games on Twitter and shit. But it's I think maybe that kind of adds to the lack of community as well, just because it's everybody on there. People aren't. You had to really like make a conscious choice to join a forum.
Yeah, I want to be on Nintendo Twitter.
Yeah,
basically,
this was. It was a little bit different.
That'd kind of be better in a way.
I also just wanted to talk about the Voodoo graphic card box art at the time.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a little kid in the late 90s, that kind of scared the shit out of me. I didn't even fucking know what was in those boxes.
It reminded me of Homeworld. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Did you and I don't know, so I'm thinking maybe 98, 99. Did you really even understand what a graphics card was at that time?
Yes, because my Midtown Madness. Okay, so this is how I first bought Civilization. You want to hear the story?
Okay.
So I went to Costco, and American people, I think there's Costco, or it might be called Sam's Club down there. And they had like tester PCs, and you could like play games and shit on them, right? And one of the games was Midtown Madness 2. And I stayed there, and my mom was like looking at all the groceries and going out and getting like a pallet of peanut butter and stuff like that. And then she's like, came like rushing back, and she's like, "Oh my God, I thought you were right with me for like the last 20 minutes. I was like, "No, I was just standing right here, like waiting to get like fucking kidnapped and raped, Mom." But I thought that was like the funnest game because it had like crash, like collision effects, and kind of like physics, like physics engines weren't even like that, I don't know, sophisticated back then, I guess you'd say. Yeah. So I was like, "Mom, can we please get this? Can we please get this?" And she's like, "No, no, no." And then we left Costco, and then she had to go to like Best Buy for something, and it was there. And I was like, "Mom, please, please, please." She's like, "No, no, no." I don't know. I was like, "Okay, I understand. Like, I'll try really hard in school." And then she was just like, "Okay, whatever. I'll get you the fucking game." So we got it. We went home, and I popped it in this old Dell. And then like the graphics were just like spikes and shit, like everywhere. Everything was like super fucked up. So I was like, this is probably like 2002. So I think we got the internet in like 2002. So I went online, and they were like, "Your graphics card isn't good enough for this game." And I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck's a graphics card?" So then we took the game back to Best Buy, and I was like, "Can I get Midtown Madness 1? Because I like thought it was earlier. My PC would like probably run it, right?" My brother's like, "No, we're getting Civilization 3. And I was like, "No, we're not. Like, screw off on Midtown Madness." He's like, "Mom, that won't run, but this one will." And my mom's like, "Well, we're getting the game that works, stock. Like, stop screwing around." I was like, "I don't fucking want Civilization 3. We took it home, and my brother played it, and he's like, "This is the best fucking thing ever." And I was like, "No, like, screw you, man. I want Midtown Madness." And like after he got off or whatever, I jumped on. I think I played Civ 3 for like fucking 20 hours or some shit. I was like, "This is the best fucking game in the world."
Well, it all worked out in the end.
It did, but I still I want to play Midtown fucking Madness. I never did get to play that fucking game, like besides at Costco. And then we went back to Costco the next time. I ran over to the same computer, and it like wasn't there anymore. And I think I might even like been like emotional about it. I was like, fuck, I'll never get to play it ever again because my
I'm
stupid
sure.
brother.
I'm sure by this point it's probably on myabandonware.com. So,
I think I might have it for like PlayStation or some shit.
oh, okay.
Midtown Madness 3, anyways. I've never played it. I cared so much.
uh, that's funny.
And I think it probably would be like the physics engine that would be so hard on the video card or some shit. Like it needed more
Right.
VRAM. Like I probably had like 14 megabytes of VRAM or some shit.
I thought this story was going to like, you had to like go get a brand new graphics card and you installed the graphics card at the time, but it turned
Nope, my mom
into
was like,
just
"We're going with your brother. Fuck you."
yeah. But in retrospect, your brother made the better choice anyways.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would have played Midtown Madness for like 4 hours and been like, "Yeah, it's sweet," but I'm gonna go back to like playing like Jane's FA18 or some shit.
So what else were you playing around that time?
Jane's FA18. We went to London Drugs, and that was there. And they also had like it might have been like the first like Sidewinder joystick, and I got that, and that was like super cool. I was like, oh man, this is so realistic.
Yeah, sweet.
Like it totally wasn't, but when you're like a kid and you're like, man, I could fly a fucking fighter jet. Like that's so cool. And like you actually had the joystick and stuff. Like it felt that was like one of the first things where I was like, okay, this is like the future and shit.
Right.
Like this is year 2000.
Well, and that probably kind of influenced you as well because you're still pretty into like, having a really nice racing wheel for your PC and kind of like, those types of accessories.
Oh yeah, joysticks and like racing wheels or like that. I wouldn't even like want a PC unless I had those peripherals,
Right.
Just the sim, like the American truck sim, the farming sim. Like I know that stuff sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a ton of fun. Especially now because I'm like a parts guy on Peterbilts and Kenworths and stuff, and I run equipment sometimes and stuff. Like I don't know, like it's weird to like want to do shit that you like work on at work and that, but I don't know. I just really like the in-depth sim of stuff, or like Homeworld, like the RTS games from back then. There was like Command and Conquer. There was like Homeworld was like it was like the first 3D like controlling like spaceships, like where you could like order them around and like collect resources and stuff. Like that stuff, it was such a huge impact on me.
Right.
Yeah. What about you? Did you guys ever have like any peripherals like that, or?
No, I had like a like super old, I think it was a Logitech, like gamepad for PC or whatever. But yeah, no, I didn't really have no steering wheels, no big joysticks or anything like that.
What was the first PC game where you looked at it and you were like, holy shit, like now this is like futuristic and like next gen? Like I can see why PCs kick the shit out of consoles, sort of thing.
I guess other than Doom, I don't know. What about you?
Probably Shogun Total War.
Yeah,
it's still my favorite PC game of all time. Like maybe Mountain Blade, like Bannerlord is like right there, or Warband as well. But like the first time I was like, okay, this is like a cool. I bought it purely because of like the samurai box art. Like I asked my mom for it, and that actually ran on the Dell. Which like nowadays, thinking back, I can't fucking believe that game ran on that fucking computer.
Right.
But it was like you go on like it was like a super like like the Japanese like calligraphy where it's like the ink and they made like the whole map like with that like same style, and as you move like your pieces across the map, like you build your own army, say with like here's a unit of 60 people, here's another unit of 60 people, and you like literally made like an army of spearmen, like people with katanas and bowmen and shit like that. And then like when your game piece would land in the same province as like an enemy game piece, you go down to like a tactical battle, and there would be like hundreds of men on the field that you could command and shit. And they'd like fight to the death. And there's like a certain unit that could like wipe out like an entire unit just because it was like so skilled. And like all the bodies would stay there, which was like trippy to me back then because I was like, man, this is like a real battle. Like there's bodies like littering the battlefield and like certain
Right.
people are running away and like there's like morale. So if you charged into someone from behind with cavalry, like, and it was like a light bow unit, they would just like fucking run away. You know, like it was super like, I was like, whoa, like this is like, it's almost like the Simpsons where it's like the little mini civilization or whatever the fuck. Like it was the first time I was like, oh my God, like this is a total like feudal Japan like battle, but like you can
Right.
play it. Like it was so mind blowing to me. And those games are still awesome. I wish they'd stop making Warhammer, make Empire 2, but what the fuck can you do?
I see in the show notes too the Brick and London Drugs were the good places to buy
Fuck.
games.
Yes, dude.
Really? The
Mom would go
Brick?
in for like getting a fucking couch, and they had like in Red Deer there, like by the Wendy's, I think it was. They had like this
Okay.
whole other off thing where like if you were there to pick up your couch, it was like the shipping and receiving area. But they also had like a CD rack, and it had like a whole bunch of video games, like PC games and shit. It was awesome.
And so you could guilt your mom, like if you know, mom, you're already spending like $800 on a fucking couch, you can spring the extra $40 for the game.
I got like a shitty mountain. What the fuck's that stuff that Americans drink? Mountain Dew. There's like a Mountain Dew like skateboarding and rollerblading game, and it was awful. I got it there literally because I was like, Mom, you spent like $1,400 on all this furniture. Can I just get like a $60 game? And she's like, yeah, throw it on there. And then it was terrible. I played it one time. I was like, holy fuck, it's uncontrollable.
And London Drugs too.
London Drugs was the holy land. They had like graphics cards, racing wheels, joysticks, all the games. They had like a huge Nintendo section. Like London Drugs was tight as fuck for games. Even in like 2013, I went in there and bought a fucking joystick. Like it was a piece of shit, like $30 one, but my other one had broken. I was like, I just want to play this game for the night, and then I'll like get a decent one.
Right. Yeah, I think I've only ever like been in London Drugs once or twice in my life. I didn't know that that was a like a real stellar thing.
They have a whole electronic section in there with like flat screens and shit.
Ah, cool.
They might even have a Nintendo Switch huge display. I think they
Right.
might. Yeah.
Well, I know, like Shoppers Drug Mart around here, they always have video games. Like, you know, most of the bigger, more recent stuff.
You know what there was a lot more of back then? Like video games being on like random people's like work PCs, and like just like everyone would have like weird games.
How do you mean?
Do you ever go to like your dad's work and like his like people he worked with would have like sweet games and shit on their computers?
Yeah, not at like parents' work or anything.
Oh, okay. I remember I went to my dad's work, and there's these two guys that shared an office, and you would know the one, like if I said like who it was.
Yeah.
Um, and him and the guy like desk like right across from him, they'd always play like Delta Force games.
Okay.
So I'd go there and play like Delta Force 2. This is probably like, I don't know, year 2000, something like that. And I'd be like, oh, because my mom wouldn't let me play like Mill Sims. Like it was a total like fucking war game. But it was
Right.
so fun because I was like, holy shit. The only thing I'd play before that was like Rainbow Six.
Right. Right.
And it's like sort of the same kind of deal. Rainbow Six is probably more of a sim than Delta Force, but it was just so, that was like pretty futuristic feeling as well. Oh, as well, that same kind of vein was the like Battlefield 1942 in 2002. I remember that being huge. I read about it in magazines before it came out and stuff. And then these like family friends of ours, like they bought it for their kids like as soon as it came out, and that game blew my mind. Like you could fly airplanes, like drive tanks and shit. It felt like World War II. Like it felt
Right.
super immersive for the time.
Yeah, I never played it back then, but I remember it being a big deal.
Yeah. And then to kind of round off this era, I played Free Space 2, but like not when it came out in like 2000, but I played it in college on the recommendation of my roommate, who you like remember was in our class in school. And he was
Okay.
like super into Star Trek and all that kind of stuff. He's a physicist now, so it makes sense. But yeah,
So
like
what
that
is
was like
Free Space 2?
it's kind of like Elite Dangerous. It's like you go around trading and stuff in space, like you fly your
Oh,
own
okay.
ship. But in that game, it was super cool because you could like pilot like massive ships, if I remember correctly.
Plus, like, kind of the resource management type side of it as well.
Yeah, and like fending off pirates and stuff like that.
Right. Sweet.
It was awesome.
What about like online Flash type stuff in that era?
Remember Frank's Adventure?
No.
Oh my God,
What
seriously?
was Frank's Adventure?
It was a very X-rated Flash game where it was like you go around this city and you'd like do favors for people, and then like at the end of the quest, they would give you like a fucking picture of like hentai, like some chick's like gaping vagina. We were in like fucking, I don't know, grade 7, just straight up looking at like super hardcore hentai in this game. And me and like our one friend who like passed away like somewhat recently,
Yeah,
like we
yeah.
were super, super into that game. We were like, oh yeah. Didn't like, of course, not realizing we were creeping out every girl in the school at the
Right.
time. We were just like, oh my God, we're getting away with this. Like we fully thought that the teachers could see like what websites we were on and shit.
Right.
Apparently there was no monitoring.
That's hilarious.
But other than that, more innocent stuff like Alien Hominid and like mini clip
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, Miniclip was the shit in the early 2000s.
Was the first Trials game like by Red Links on Miniclip? I think
Yeah,
that totally
was on Miniclip. Save the Sheriff. Do you remember Save the Sheriff?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that one I always thought was like just like a really well done game.
yeah.
Line Rider. I guess this is probably getting closer to like the end of high school. Line Rider was a big thing for a while.
Yeah. That was around the same time as like RuneScape and shit, I think.
I never got into RuneScape, but I remember that being huge in high school. There was a lot of people that played that.
It was amazing because it was free.
And all like through web browser.
Yeah, so you could sit in the computer lab and play like a full-on MMO. We didn't even know what the fucking MMO was at the time.
Is RuneScape still around? Is that still a thing?
It sure is.
Oh yeah, have you?
So they have like an updated version with like new graphics and that, but there's still like a shit ton of people playing old school RuneScape, and they like have events and like update it and stuff still. Like it's very much alive.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Do you ever go in there and fuck around with it still?
I tried about 2 years ago, and it was just kind of like the magic was a bit gone, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think a lot of the like what made that so special was that it was accessible like anywhere.
Oh, definitely. Like, yeah, all you had to do is sign into an account, and then like it would just load browser side, and you'd be playing.
Right. All right. So I think we're probably kind of. Do you have anything else you want to dig into for kind of the mid 2000s, sir?
I think we mostly covered everything, honestly.
All right. Well, why don't we take a quick break here, and then we'll jump back in and kind of talk about modern stuff.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
So this is probably going to be pretty much an all you thing, and here's why. I didn't have a PC that could really run anything for games until last year. I got a new PC, and it's not a top of the line PC, but it'll kind of run anything modern, you know, at 1080 fine.
I thought you had like a pretty decent card. Didn't you have like a 3060 or some shit?
No, it's got a 1650 Super.
Oh, okay, that's so pretty good though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's fine. Like it's definitely not doing ray tracing and shit. But you know, I don't know. I put Halo Infinite and I played Forza Horizon 4 on it before and stuff, and it runs it fine. It's not.
How many frames is like Forza Horizon 4 on it?
If you put it at like kind of low to medium settings, it'll run like fine at 60.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it's not too
Yeah, that's a
bad.
pretty like intensive game.
That being said, Halo and Forza, I'm like, I put those on the computer to like fuck around with to see how it would run. I'm playing all that shit on console anyways. You know what I've put and actually played on the PC? Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, SimCity 3000, Roller Coaster Tycoon, like,
That's awesome.
all the shit that we talked about, in the early 2000s. So to me, and I'm certainly not like anti PC gaming, but the draw of PC gaming back then was the exclusives. There was a lot of shit, that you could only play on PC and really good stuff. To me, obviously there are exclusives on PC now, but anything really big usually comes to consoles, and they've got it figured out fairly well how to transition the controls to a controller.
I think the bang for the buck you get for like an Xbox Series S or X is like far outweighs PCs
Oh,
now.
absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think that was the case with like original Xbox and stuff. Like I thought PCs would like they obviously crushed that shit. Like
Right.
like rigs that could run Crisis and shit like that, you know. But
Well, and
like
even now, like, you can definitely build a better PC than what you can buy for a
oh yeah.
console.
Yeah.
But
But not for
that's where the
600
draw
fucking
is.
dollars.
If you want like the crazy power, if you want to do mods and stuff, that's what PC is for. That's just not what I'm interested in.
If you want to play Paradox Grand Strategy game, you're not playing it on fucking console.
Yeah, but I'm not really playing those games.
Exactly. That's what I'm
So
saying. Like
yeah.
if you're like that's why I have a PC pretty much. Is like that and like the Mountain Blade games and like some of the flying sims. Other than
Mhm.
that, like $600 Canadian or whatever it is for an Xbox is like a no-brainer.
Right. But you've really, I guess, probably before the Series X, you've been predominantly playing on PC for the last, 6 or 8 years, I would say, hey?
I've been predominantly playing on a shitty old PC. My PC's from like 2011 or 12, and I've been using it this whole time. I've upgraded the graphics card twice, but that's it.
Right. I thought you put a new motherboard in at one point.
I'm getting a new motherboard and CPU at tax return season, and I've already
Right.
got it lined up with Buddy at work.
Sweet.
I was just like, I gotta wait, like to save money.
What's been your favorite experiences out of PC over the last decade?
Eve Online was a big one, and that's the first MMO that I actually like really gave a shit about. Like RuneScape, it was fun in school, but you weren't like super invested in it. And that was just like, man, we're wasting time at school, sort of thing, like
Hmm.
killing these goblins. Eve Online was the first one where I was really sinking a lot of time into it. And that was pretty revolutionary for me, just because like the way the economy and stuff worked in that game was pretty player driven, which
Right.
was like very cool because like resources were finite and it was like how much like players could mine and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Mountain Blade, first Warband, and now Bannerlord. I think those are like the most true to like the definition RPGs that have like ever been made. Just because you like get plopped into like this medieval world and you can literally do whatever the fuck you want. If you just want to be a bandit and like lead a whole huge army of bandits, you can do that. If you want to join a kingdom and become like a liege lord and own like a castle and some villages, you could do that. If you literally just want to ride around and trade, you can do that. And you can make like shit tons of money. And then you can like bribe people and sway them to your opinion and shit like that. And like you can become the king and like, it's like it's just so fully fleshed out. And
Right.
there's some jank for sure. Like it's a huge idea to put in a game. Like there's definitely some jank. But it's just like the most I don't know, satisfying. Like you really feel like that's your character and that's like your party. And when like you get in a battle and like 10% of your dudes die, like you're actually like pretty bummed out and stuff because now you got to go like recruit people and train them up and feed
Hmm.
them. And it's pretty sweet.
Have you checked anytime recently on Steam to see how many hours you have into Warband?
Oh, God. I don't even want to look. It'd probably be 1,000. It'd be a
Yeah.
thousand, yeah. And then Bannerlord, I bet it's getting up to about 250, 300 hours. That game didn't run very decent on my PC. It seems like poorly optimized. Like the menus and stuff are pretty laggy.
Yeah,
So I'm not super into playing it as much as Warband,
right.
but I do really enjoy it.
Are you still doing the racing sims as much as you were a few years ago?
So I used to subscribe to iRacing, but that was pretty pricey to like get new cars and tracks and stuff. And it's like super serious. Like you practice, and then like if you bump people in the race, like you're super, like they get super pissed off. And then like if you even like touch someone with like your bumper, they'll like the game will like log that as like a safety violation, and then like you'll go down like
Wow.
the safety rank and stuff, and you'll start getting put in like lobbies where like people are way shittier at racing and stuff. Like it's fucking,
Jeez.
and you have to use your real name.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
intense.
That you have to use your real fucking name so people like know who you are. Like it's pretty real. But I've raced against like people's like pit crews from like NASCAR and shit.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's legit. Like NASCAR people use it. There's like lots of sim racers. Like there's F1 drivers who like use it. Like it's pretty simulatory. But I
Right. So
gave up.
there's a reason people are taking it pretty serious.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, and it is like really true to life. Like it's super fucking cool. But like it was a lot of money. And then like I'd have to tell the wife, like, listen, there's a race in 20 minutes. Like I can't be bothered.
Right.
Like, like it's like you had to get like super sweaty about everything. So now
And
I
you
mostly just play like Assetto Corsa and like other like sim racers, but more like between Forza and like iRacing.
right. You always use your Logitech wheel for that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even like dated. Like it's not very good, but I'm not getting like a fucking $5,000 steering wheel and shit.
Right.
And then other than that, it's Paradox Grand Strategy games. I'd say by time played, Hearts of Iron 4, Stellaris. No, I played Europa Universalis 4 is the one I played the most. And then there's like that Rome one that they made. It was pretty shitty. It's called Imperator Rome. It was all right, I guess. I shouldn't say it was shitty, but it was just not probably as deep as some of the others.
Right, right.
I'm just like a huge like if Paradox, like the dev team for those games are in this room right now, I'd be like it would be a blow bang. Fucking love that shit. So fucking good, dude.
Yeah, I'm definitely not as familiar with that stuff. We played Stellaris that one time, and that it's definitely an interesting game. I think you've got to really be willing to get invested to get good at something like that, though.
You got to play a 50-hour like game and then just have everyone shit on your head like 10 fucking times. And then you're like, oh man, I'm doing really good this time. I shit on everyone. And then you get shit on. Like they're pretty deep and stuff. And I don't do like that great at them a lot of the time, but sometimes
Right.
like when it does work, you feel so fucking smart and cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then other than that, I play like some Arma 3, like Milsim sort of stuff. Player Unknown's Battlegrounds when that first came out.
Right.
I remember DayZ was huge when that came out.
Yeah.
I loved playing DayZ. And then, other than that, like modern stuff, like fuck Uplay and fuck Origin. I really like Game Pass and my Steam account.
Now, do you think now that you've got your Series X, are you going to be kind of transitioning again back towards doing more on console, or do you think the PC is still going to get pretty heavy use for the next 5 years?
I'll always be playing PC, not just like, and Ultimate Guitar, like literally I'm on there for, I don't know, 20 hours a fucking week.
Right.
Like,
just
like
so to
looking
kind
at
of have like
tabs and
the whole ecosystem in the same place.
yeah, and then like a lot of now with Game Pass and that on PC, I can like kind of play like playing Halo Wars on console versus PC. Like, yeah, it might look better on the Series X, but it controls a hell of a lot better on PC.
Right. Yeah.
I just really like PC. It's pretty versatile. If you want to learn like how to code, you can use it to do that. Like watch YouTube. Like the PCs are wonderful.
Well, before we close it off, should we jump into a couple questions to ponder here?
Sure.
I'm curious. What's your favorite operating system you've ever used?
I I don't know. Like I remember Windows 98 and stuff being good. I remember like I was super good at like OS 9 or whatever was on like the colored iMacs,
Hmm.
but for Windows, I don't know, Windows 10, I guess it's been pretty
Yeah,
decent, honestly. Yeah,
I always really liked Windows XP, and maybe it's just because it was
yeah,
around for so long. But it just like I don't know, XP always seemed like it was snappy and it worked on pretty much everything at the time. And I don't know, it was just like, especially before like Vista and Seven and stuff came out, it was just so like solid. I don't know. Vista came out and there's problems, and even Seven, like Seven kind of
yeah.
built on Vista, but like Seven took a while to be. XP was just like so good for so long. It looked good. It worked
Even like
nice.
Windows 8 and 8.1, like they were fucked up like a soup sandwich. Like I
Right.
hated that
Yeah.
UI. It was fucking awful.
I do really like Windows 10 as well, but I think just because it's that's what I use all the time, it's kind of hard to look back at it in retrospect at this point.
Yeah, yeah, true. Like
Yeah.
I'd say like yeah, like for retro like 98 or like XP, like you said, XP was awesome.
Yeah. What
Really
about
liked
least
XP.
favorite?
Um I don't know. Probably 8. I didn't mind Vista that much. I remember we had it on our college computer and like yeah, it was a bit laggy and I don't know, it's just like I remember the screen like freezing quite a bit.
Security pop-ups all the time.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty shitty. Yeah, but still, it wasn't like unusable. Like I thought it was okay. I didn't really. All I really did in college just play Free Space, so and
Right.
Homeworld and shit. Like it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. I had a computer I ran Aton for a while, and it was exhausting.
Yeah, I fucking
I
hate
think,
8.
yeah, I think that was, I don't know, if you had like a good tablet, or like you had like a Surface at the time or something, then that would have been just fine. But for running a dedicated PC, it
I
was
had a Surface Pro
no good.
too, and it was still fucking dog shit.
Did you use it like in touchscreen that much though, or
Yeah,
yeah? I don't know. I feel like if I was using a primarily touchscreen device, I would have been okay with it.
they had a program that was called Fresh Paint, I think, and the paint like blending on it was like super impressive. I did
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, but that's about it.
So I'm curious, what do you think about Mac kind of in the next 5 or 10 years? I don't know to me, and I definitely don't keep track of what's going on with Macs at all. I feel like having a Mac um, was really popular in the early 2010s, but now it's moved a lot more towards people that are like creators that are looking for
Yeah.
dedicated devices for stuff like that. Do you think that's going to keep trending in that direction, or do you think Mac is ever going to take off and become a big trendy thing again more
I
than it is
think
so now?
I think Mac will be a lot of like at home musicians, like electronic music producers, video editors, maybe.
Mm,
Um, just kind of artists and creatives. I think a lot of those people will really still enjoy using Mac because I think it is pretty user friendly and stuff.
it's not really going to break into the mainstream and take on PC anytime soon again, though.
No, I don't think so. I think for like certain like privacy and security things, like Mac is like excellent.
Right.
But I don't think it'll ever be like
As versatile.
yeah, as many people playing Steam games and shit on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not like and I don't think certainly that playing games is the main market for PCs, obviously, but
Right.
I think for like our kind of power user, like for entertainment sort of area, I don't think Mac will have a big effect, really.
Yeah. Well, and I think in the workplace too, like even just as simple as Microsoft Office is so ingrained into the workplace that
Yeah,
it would be really hard to walk back on that.
and the Microsoft server versions and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Even though like a lot of that's Linux, I think Linux might like have like a little bit of a uptick. I think some more people might start using Linux a bit.
How come?
I don't know. I think a lot of like gamer, like super PC people are just kind of into like trying new stuff. And
Right.
I don't know. Like the Linus Tech Tips, like super fan people out there in the world
Right.
and stuff.
Do you think Linux is getting more refined than it has
I don't
been?
know. Honestly, I don't know much about Linux.
Right. So what about PC versus console? It seems like consoles are just moving closer and closer to becoming PCs anyways. Do you think as far as the like how is PC going to stack up against consoles as far as gaming in the next 5 years?
I think console and PCs are going to become very similar unless you're Nintendo.
Do you think by the time, PS5 and Series X have been out for 3 or 4 years, that PC's just gonna like eclipse them so far in terms of graphical capabilities that it's gonna, it's gonna kind of have more of a resurgence at that point?
I think it really depends on like the crypto fucktards and stuff like that. Like what are cards actually being like manufactured for or used for? And there's like shit getting sniped by crypto bros, and like it's fucking so expensive that you can't even build your own fucking PC anymore.
So do you think like issues with microprocessors, like as far as supply chain, like that's not going away anytime soon?
Judging from how hard it is to get certain like fucking suspension airbags for like a Peterbilt truck, I'd say we're gonna be in the shit for a while with supply issues.
Right.
And like I got a new like graphics card, like a new used one, but like they're like you could still find the stuff, but I think the price is going to be at a premium for a while.
Mm-hmm. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, me too. But just judging from like parts, like I don't think I am.
Right.
Might as well have like fucking 10 ships stuck sideways in the Suez at this point. Like we're fucked.
Well, do you have anything on a less depressing note to top off with?
I think that we're going to start all losing privacy at an alarming rate, and we are headed toward dystopia like 100 years before we thought it would happen.
Well, thanks for that.
What about you? I think we're gonna have massive civil unrest and supply chain issues. and our countries will only become more politically divided and and undereducated.
Oh, great. Thanks for that.
Can't wait to play like Homeworld 3 and stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming and chatting about PCs. It was good to have somebody that can speak a lot more fluently about it than I can.
I'm honored that you would consider having me on your little show. I'm a huge fan, and I hope you guys much success and many listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And if anybody wants to chat up Bimmy on Twitter at Bimmy Sucks.
It's a Nintendo reference.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you. Shout out to you and Andre and Steve.
I don't know. How do you end a fucking podcast? I don't know.
Peace.
That's not my job.
Okay, I gotta go beat off. Okay, you can bring your camera back up.
Why?
I want to see if you're rubbing your nipples.